and found out that I had multiple myeloma and the amyloidosis. And that just changed my whole world.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Noose from Patient Connect, a platform that is an all-in-one resource for patients to find other patients, to find specialty centers, and to find resources, educational, financial, and other resources to help them in their patient journey. With us today, we have a special guest, Dr. Des, who has a book out that we're going to talk about, but she's an accomplished author and she's a doctor in human services and education. And she has had her own journey with multiple myeloma and amyloidosis, and we're going to get into that. So with that, Dr. Des, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. I'm excited to be here. It's a pleasure to be here. Most people know me by Dr. Des. My official name is Desiree Love Holliday, but most people know me as Dr. Des. And I'm excited to be here to be able to tell people about my story because of the fact that I'm not the normal multiple myeloma patient because I was diagnosed with two incurable diseases at the same time. So you can just imagine how I felt. And so
Absolutely.
that's why I'm here.
Excellent. And she has a vibrant social media presence on Instagram. And so definitely check her out there. So Dr. Des, with that introduction, maybe you can jump into, the beginning of the story of what was life like before multiple myeloma, and then as you get diagnosed, how did it all begin?
Well, I was diagnosed officially in 2018, but I say my journey actually began in 2017 because all of a sudden I just started feeling sick.
Mm.
And I was having breathing issues. I just wasn't feeling well. I started to lose weight, a whole lot of different things. And before my diagnosis, I was going to a whole lot of doctors. And I was going in the hospital because to the emergency rooms, and they was keeping me because of the difficulty of breathing. And they just couldn't find out what was going on. My primary doctor at the time sent me to several doctors, and they was doing all multiple tests. I say that I was if you looked at me, I should have lit up like a light bulb for how many C scans and PET scans and all other scans that you could name. I probably took, and I was a pincushion because all the blood tests. And they actually found the amyloid first in an unusual place in my breast. And I happened to go for a mammogram and a bilateral ultrasound, which I had to do every year. And they found amyloid in my breast. And when that was a year later, and because of shortness of time, I'm not going to go into all those details. But when I went back to the doctor, she told me that they found this substance called amyloid, which I didn't even know what she was talking about. And she started trying to explain it to me. And then she told me she was going to have to send me to an oncologist. And as she started to explain to me what the seriousness of this was, I felt I was in a different frame in a movie. She was moving on, but I was stuck in one spot. Because when you go to the doctor, you're expecting, oh, well, you're sick and they're going to give you a pill and that's going to be the end of it. Well, my life changed at that point because she sent me on to an oncologist who in turn did a bone marrow biopsy and found out that I had multiple myeloma and the amyloidosis. And that just changed my whole world. I It was a terrible feeling that I can't explain to anyone unless they have gone through the same thing that I'm going through. I was a walking zombie. That's what I call it.
Got it. Got it. And so, how much before the diagnosis were you getting symptoms? Was it like a year or, from the time of symptom to diagnosis, how long did that take?
I would say for me, it probably was about a year and a half.
Got it. And you're in Florida, right?
Yeah.
And, what do you think could have made that time to diagnosis shorter? I mean, you also had a year between amyloidosis and multiple myeloma diagnosis, right? So looking back on it, what do you think could have made that period shorter?
I think with doctors being more aware of not just looking for the ordinary symptoms, because as we know, this disease mimics a whole lot of different other symptoms. And I think when they couldn't find anything wrong in those areas, then something else should have clicked.
Right.
Something else is going on to make the time frame shorter. And I think because the doctors, they only train on a little bit of it and not a lot of it. They don't come across it a whole lot. They don't think about it.
Got it. And which hospital did you end up going to, or, in the beginning versus later in your journey? Because one of the things we find is, people don't get to a specialist as soon as they should, or a specialty hospital. And a lot of times they go to their local hospital and they just are not as equipped to find what they end up finding later on at a specialty center. So maybe you can talk about the facilities you went to and where things started to click.
Well, I think in that area for me, I was a little fortunate because my primary doctor, even though she wasn't connected with the facility I ended up going to, she knew where to direct me to in this area. So she was affiliated with Memorial Hospital, and I ended up with the University of Miami. And then I was pointed directly, they was talking about the specific doctor who was the specialist down here at that time, the only one, Dr. James Hoffman. But I didn't see him initially. I seen one oncologist, hematologist initially, where I got my diagnosis. And because I was persistent to see another doctor who was a specialist in this area that was recommended, I went to see Dr. James Hoffman, who is the expert in this area.
And Dr. James is at University of Miami?
Yes, he's at the University of Miami, Sylvester campus.
Excellent. And would you recommend others to go to University of Miami, or how was your experience at that facility?
My experience with that facility, because of the fact that I was directed by not only fellow doctors, but the support group at that time, and still at that time that I'm a part of. I'm a part of different support groups, and that one happened to be the amyloidosis support group. And they recommended the doctor because he was an expert in the area. And I must say, I made the best choice in the world. He's very compassionate. He doesn't get excited about anything. Plus the fact that he's very informative and directed. He didn't waste time in starting treatment. As soon as he found out, he knew what was going on. Matter of fact, he's such an excellent doctor that before I even sat down in his office, he had read my complete medical history. He knew how many hospital visits I went to, how many times I was in the hospital, what medications. He knew everything. So by the time I sat down with him, he knew exactly what to do. And I was appreciative. And that made all
Oh,
the world.
that's fantastic. That is fantastic. Okay. And so you ended up getting the myeloma diagnosis a year later. Did you stay at University of Miami? What was your treatment regimen like? Maybe you could tell folks that are getting this diagnosis and what they can expect.
Well, with the myeloma, like I said, I got the myeloma and the amyloidosis diagnosis at the same time. And so basically, the treatments that I receive are some of the treatments that people who have solely multiple myeloma. But yet, as we go down the treatment cycle, it may change a little bit because of the fact that I have two diseases at the same time. So when I started out with the Cyber D. And then after I started out with the Cyber D, I went into Darzalex. And then after I had the Darzalex, then, I could say in conjunction with the Darzalex, I had Revlimid. And then we went to the Polymus. And then, like with most people with multiple myeloma, I ended up with a stem cell transplant. And I took chemo and immunotherapy for 2 straight years prior to my stem cell transplant. And because of some complications with the medications, then we had to go on to other things.
So would you say stem cell was the breakthrough for you?
Yes, the stem cell transplant for me was a breakthrough, even though we had a major hiccup.
Okay. Tell us about that.
During the stem cell transplant. They call it that I went into a state of delirium. And I say I went into a state of unconsciousness. Matter of fact, during that time that I had my stem cell was in the mid of COVID. So I couldn't have any visitors or anything like that because we was in COVID. And I say I was in a state of unconsciousness, but because of the medical condition that had transpired, I didn't even realize they allowed my husband to come in to the hospital. He told me eventually down the road that my organs too had started to fail. And I had so much water and things on me. I didn't even realize he was in the hospital with me for 3 days. They allowed him to come back for 3 days, and then because of COVID, he couldn't come back anymore. And he was praying. He was having people pray for me. And later down the road, I seen a nurse, and she said, "I know your name. I seen you in the hospital." I said, "I don't even remember you." And I didn't even realize that I was that sick. They had a nurse, a 24-hour nurse with me every day. And I just thought that was basic routine. I didn't know it was because I had been so sick. And I stayed in I believe if it was not, it had to be more than 3 days I was in unconsciousness, because I don't remember anything that they did. I don't remember the tests that they took during that time, moving me to take any type of tests, exams. I only realized that until after I was looking through my medical record. And I happened to see all the x-rays and MRIs and everything, because they was trying to figure out what was going on. I don't remember the movement. So I say that I went into a state of unconsciousness. They call it delirium because of I guess they have to have a medical term for it, because I just don't remember anything that transpired. And by
Got
the
it.
time I was getting ready to leave, all the doctors that I came in to see
Right.
me.
So, okay, so patients need to be aware of you could enter a state of delirium and have this kind of
Yeah.
complication in stem cell.
Usually, I don't, when they ask one of the support groups about stem cell transplant, I don't tell them my story.
Got it.
It's in the book, but it's not, I don't come out and say, because I don't want people to get scared, or
Right, right,
that
right.
because it happened to me, that, it could happen to them. I want them to go in with the most positive mind.
Got it. Got it. And that's a good pause to plug the book. You guys can go on Amazon. The name of the book is You Say I Have What? Living with Cancer and a Rare Disease, Amyloidosis. So it's on Amazon, the name Dr. Des. And it's also on your screen right now, how she spells her name, Desiree Love Holliday. So I just want to plug the book. Is there anything you want to say about the book? As people go check it out?
Well, for me, when I decided to write the book, You Say I Have What? And when you look at the expression on my face on the book, that's exactly how I felt when the doctors told me about it. And I wanted the book to be an education to learn about the disease, because a lot of people don't know about rare diseases and they're not curable, most of them. And my journey, and through my journey, um, being an inspiration to other people, that yes, I did go through depression, I did go through fear, I did go through denial and anger, and all those things I went through. But in the end, I saw support. I went through support groups, psychologists. Yes, I went to a psychologist because that's how depressed I was. And then in the end, I call it my spiritual prescription, because I had, after you do everything that medical science can do, then just like you go to them for healing, if you believe in God or a higher spiritual being for some people, I call it my spiritual prescription, where I had to lock in on faith and prayer and get all the spiritual support that I could get to carry me through. Because the doctors only could take you but so far.
Absolutely. Very good, very good. Okay, so when we think about the support systems that you had, you mentioned you went to support groups. Can you talk about, which ones helped you the most and sort of your support system overall, like friends, family, providers, care groups, anything you
Um,
can say about support systems?
well, the first support group that I went to was the amyloidosis support group, because that was the main focus at the time. And then after I went on, I got connected with the Palm Beach multiple myeloma support group. And now I'm connected with the multiple myeloma warrior. And through them, I've learned, I'm through with the amyloidosis support one, the international multiple myeloma group. So through this, my journey is just widened my perspective, and it's a learning process for me, and it's a way to let people know my story. I also, like I said, I mentioned I went to a psychologist at one time because I needed it because of what I was going through at the time. It was life changing. I had to stop working and everything because I was so sick, and unfortunately my employer was not sensitive to my needs, so I had to put my health, of course, in the beginning, because we know that if we don't take care of this, that we can die eventually if we don't do the things that we have to do to take care of our health. and we want to be here as long as possible. And then, I had my family and my friends. And like I said, I had, through the journey, I also met some people who were going through the same thing that I was going through. And they became a support to me. I became a support to others that knew what I was going through. And I was able to speak with them and empower them and give them some faith in going through this journey. And I had a network of people praying for me, which was very important. And I think that was about it. Coming to see me during my time, like I said, when I had my stem cell transplant, it was during the time of COVID. So, people couldn't come. Everybody was down on lockdown. So they really couldn't come to see me. So everything, I spoke to them, they called me, and I was very cautious because, when during the first 100 days, you can't really have any visitors and things like that after the stem cell transplant, or very limited. So I think having a good support system is something that is needed by individuals who are encountering some of the same symptoms. Because even though we might have the same disease, we all react differently.
Right.
But we're going through the same journey.
Right. Absolutely. So looking back on sort of like pivotal moments in your experience that helped you push through, the tough days, is there anything about those experiences you want to share with others, who are, having those thoughts?
I think for me, because I'm a believer in Christ, that having a good spiritual support system to help lift you up where you need it the most. I also think that inquiring, don't be afraid to speak to your doctors if you have any questions. When I first went to see my doctor, I had about 15, 20 questions when I sat down. And the relationship between your doctor and you is very important. Nothing is too small. And your doctor should give you the atmosphere of feeling that like you're his only patient, having a good relationship. And if you cannot connect with them, making sure that they have a team or somebody you can reach out to ask questions where they can ask the doctor to get information. I really believe that, like I said, I went through a point in my life that I was going through a whole lot of different things in my life. And I had to go through a change of mindset in my life that I'm not going to die, because when you hear this diagnosis, the first thing you say, incurable, it's a rare disease, you think you're going to die immediately. And then you don't have anyone to really talk to about it because it's rare. And they don't know what you're talking about. So having the support groups, people that you can reach out to, not always being hum and drum, to be able to give inspiration, to show inspiration that you have life after this disease, to go out and do the things that you desire and want to do. I think for me, being diagnosed with this disease, I have a different outlook on life. I don't put things off if I don't have to, and I try to live each day to the fullest that I can, because that makes all the difference in the world. And it's placing the controls back into your life that from going from a confusing situation to being able to maintain. Do the things that you love to do and don't put it off, because tomorrow is not promised to anybody. Life is short, so live it to the fullest.
Excellent words of wisdom, Dr. Des. I think there's nothing that can really top that. So I think we should close with that. And I think that's also a great plug for, Patient Connect, because finding people that are going through something that's very rare is difficult. And, that's why we created Patient Connect for multiple myeloma, so that patients can find other patients going through the same journey as they are, so they can find the right places for them, like in Dr. Des's case, University of Miami, but there's many great specialty centers across the country and the world. So making it easy for patients to connect to those places. And then lastly, resources. We just released yesterday a major upgrade to the Patient Connect platform. It's called Knowledge Connect. It's an easy way to find answers to anything about multiple myeloma or amyloidosis in a way that uses the latest AI technology at your fingertips. Very clean, easy, sensible, and we guide you through that process. Very, very simple. So basically this all-in-one support system that will support you in a very difficult journey at times, but also very uplifting journey. And it can redefine your outlook on life, like Dr. Des was talking about. So Dr. Des, I'll leave you with the last word if you want to say anything, but you've been such a great guest. So thank you for your time and wise words. But any parting comments?
My parting comments would be, well, first of all, thank you for allowing me to be here to tell just part of my story. We don't have time for me to tell you all of my story.
Well, they can buy the book. They can buy the book and read the full story. So check on Amazon for Dr. Des's book if you want to hear more.
I also have my website, www.lifedrdes.com, which I try to update periodically to tell the good things in life. I think, like I said, even though we are hit with this diagnosis, I don't listen to people that complain and have a negative outlook about this disease. Yes, we all go through that, but eventually you have to get out of that and speak positive over your life and what you want to see, because life and death lies in the power of our tongue. And so we need to speak life and show people in the support groups that there is life after this diagnosis, and that you can enjoy life, do the things that you love to do. If it's reading, go do it. If you like to go to movies, if you like to go to the park, if you like to travel, whatever is in your hands, go and do it, because that makes such a difference. Live your life to the fullest.
Live it to the fullest. Thank you so much, Dr. Des. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.